The fluorescent lights of the Kroger grocery store hummed overhead as I stood in the checkout line, my cart filled with the usual weekly essentials. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon in suburban Atlanta, the kind of day where the Georgia heat made the air conditioning inside feel like a blessing. I had just finished calculating the total in my head, around $180 for groceries that would last us through the weekend, when my husband Marcus walked up behind me. "Did you remember to grab the good steaks?" he asked, peering into the cart. His voice carried that familiar tone of mild irritation that had become so common in our conversations lately. "I got the ones on sale," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. The ribeyes were almost $30 a pound. Marcus rolled his eyes and shook his head. "Of course you did. Can't ever get the good stuff, can we?" The cashier, a young woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Jessica, began scanning our items. The familiar beep of the scanner filled the awkward silence between us. I pulled out my debit card, the one connected to our joint account where my teaching salary was deposited each month. "That'll be $187.43, Jessica announced. I inserted my card and waited for the familiar approval sound. Instead, the machine beeped with a harsh, rejecting tone. "Declined" appeared on the screen in red letters. My stomach dropped. That's not right. Can you try running it again?" Jessica nodded sympathetically and tried once more. Again declined. "Maybe try credit," she suggested softly. I fumbled with my wallet, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks as the line behind us grew longer. I could hear whispers and sighs of impatience. The second card was declined as well. "What's wrong with you?" Marcus's voice cut through the ambient store noise like a knife. "You can't even handle a simple grocery run?" "I don't understand," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "There should be enough money. I deposited my paycheck on Friday." "Your paycheck?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Sarah, you don't even pay the bills. You have no idea how money works in this house. Your little teacher's salary barely covers groceries for a week." The words hit me like a physical blow. Around us, other customers were staring now. Some pretended to look at their phones. Others openly watched our domestic drama unfold in aisle 7. Jessica looked down at her scanner, clearly uncomfortable. I've been paying the utilities," I stammered. "The water bill, the electric." "With what money?" Marcus's voice grew louder. "You think that joke of a salary makes you some kind of breadwinner? I pay the mortgage, the car payments, the insurance, the real bills. You play school teacher and think you're contributing." My hands shook as I stared at the declined transaction screen. 15 years of marriage, and I had never felt smaller than I did in that moment. The Georgia heat outside had nothing on the burning shame spreading through my chest. "Look," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper as he leaned closer. "Just call your sister or someone. Borrow money. I'm not standing here all day while you figure out how to adult." He turned and walked away, leaving me standing there with a cart full of groceries I couldn't pay for and a line of increasingly irritated customers behind me. Jessica looked at me with genuine pity. "I'm so sorry," I whispered to her. "I need to make a phone call." "Take your time, honey," she said softly. "I'll hold your items right here." I stepped aside, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone. But instead of calling my sister, I opened my banking app. There, in my personal account, the one Marcus didn't know about, sat $127,000. Money I had been saving for 15 years, small amounts transferred from my joke of a salary, interest compounding quietly, waiting for what? A rainy day. An emergency. As I stood there in the middle of Kroger, surrounded by the evidence of my husband's public humiliation, I realized this was both. But it wasn't just the money sitting in that account that made my hand shake. It was the realization that I had been living a lie, accepting a narrative about my worth that was completely false. I thought about the bills I had been paying, the small sacrifices I had made, the way I had quietly managed so much of our life while being told I contributed nothing. I walked back to Jessica, who was waiting patiently despite the growing line. "I'm going to pay with a different card," I said quietly. As I pulled out the debit card connected to my secret account, I made a decision that would change everything. But first, I needed to understand exactly how deep the lies went. "Actually," I said to Jessica, "can you hold these items for about an hour? I need to make a stop at the bank." She nodded, and I walked out of that store with my head held higher than it had been in years. The Georgia sun felt different on my face, not oppressive but cleansing. I had some research to do. The drive to SunTrust Bank took me through the heart of our suburban neighborhood, past the manicured lawns and two-story houses that had always represented success to me. But today they looked different. Today they looked like what they were, facades that could be hiding any number of secrets. Inside the bank, I sat across from Patricia Williams, the financial advisor who had helped me set up my savings account all those years ago. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach to money management. "Sarah, it's been a while," she said, pulling up my account information on her computer. "Your savings account has been performing beautifully. The compound interest over 15 years has really added up." "Patricia," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I need to understand something. My husband handles most of our finances, but after what happened today, I'm wondering if I should be more involved." I told her about the grocery store incident, about the declined cards and Marcus's harsh words. Patricia listened without judgment, occasionally nodding. "Can you help me understand our overall financial picture?" I asked. "I know we have joint accounts, but I realize I don't know much about our debts or other obligations." Patricia's expression grew serious. "Sarah, I can only show you information about accounts where you're listed as an account holder. But I can tell you that financial transparency is crucial in a marriage. If you're not aware of your family's complete financial situation, that's concerning." She walked me through what she could see. Our joint checking account, which currently had a balance of $47, and our joint savings, which had been nearly depleted over the past 6 months. "Your joint savings had over $15,000 in it at the beginning of the year," Patricia explained. "There have been several large withdrawals." My heart sank. "What kind of withdrawals?" "I can see the amounts, but not the specific purposes. $3,000 in February, $4,200 in March, $2,800 in April, and several smaller amounts since then." I stared at the numbers on the screen. I didn't know about any of these." "Sarah," Patricia said gently, "do you have access to your credit reports? Your mortgage information? Your insurance policies?" I shook my head, feeling increasingly foolish. "Marcus handles all of that. He always said I didn't need to worry about it." "Honey, you need to worry about it. This is your life, your financial future. Can I suggest that you pull your credit report today? You can do it for free online." I left the bank with a heavy heart and a printed statement of my secret savings account. The numbers were comforting, but they couldn't erase the growing realization that I had been living in willful ignorance. Back home, I sat in my car in the driveway for a long moment, staring at our house. It was a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and a small garden that I had lovingly maintained. Marcus's BMW sat in the driveway, a car I suddenly realized I had no idea how we afforded. Inside, the house was quiet. Marcus was at his job at the insurance company, and I had 2 hours before he got home. I went straight to our home office, really Marcus's office, since I was rarely allowed to use it, and opened his laptop. The browser was already open to Chase Bank's website, and Marcus was still logged in. My heart pounded as I looked at the screen. This was wrong, I told myself. This was snooping. But then I remembered his words in the grocery store. "You don't even pay the bills." The checking account showed the $47 balance I had already seen. But there were other accounts listed. A credit card with a balance of $23,000. Another with $18,000. A personal loan for $35,000. A car loan for $47,000. I felt sick. We owed over $120,000 in various debts, and I had known about none of it. I printed everything, my hands shaking as the pages emerged from the printer. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. The picture that emerged was devastating. Marcus had been using credit to maintain our lifestyle for years, making minimum payments, taking cash advances to pay other bills. The worst part was the mortgage. We had refinanced twice in the past 5 years, each time pulling out equity to pay off other debts. Our house, which should have been nearly paid off after 15 years, now had a mortgage balance of $280,000. I sat surrounded by papers, trying to process what I was seeing. The monthly payments alone were staggering, over $4,000 just in minimum payments. Marcus's salary was good, around $85,000 a year, but it wasn't enough to cover these debts and our living expenses. That's when I found the folder marked legal documents. Inside were papers from a law firm I didn't recognize. The letterhead read, "Bankruptcy attorney, free consultation." My legs gave out, and I sank into Marcus's desk chair. He was considering bankruptcy, and I knew nothing about it. I spent the next hour going through everything methodically. The debt had been accumulating for years, hidden behind a facade of financial security. The nice dinners out, the new appliances, the vacation we had taken to Florida last year, all of it financed with credit cards and loans. But what hurt most was the realization that my teaching salary, my joke of a salary, had been the only steady income keeping us afloat. My paychecks had been deposited into our joint account and immediately used to service debt, while Marcus used credit to pay for everything else. I pulled out my phone and called my school's human resources department. "Hi, this is Sarah Mitchell. I need to verify my salary information for the past few years." The HR representative was helpful. My salary had grown from $45,000 when I started to $52,000 this year. With summer school and after-school tutoring, I had actually earned over $58,000 last year. Also, I said, I need to change my direct deposit information. Can you walk me through that process? After hanging up, I sat in the silence of our home office, surrounded by evidence of our financial disaster. Marcus would be home soon, and I needed to decide what to do with this information. I thought about his words in the grocery store, about the humiliation I had felt, about the way he had dismissed my contributions to our family. I thought about the secret savings account that Patricia had helped me build, the account that represented 15 years of careful planning and sacrifice. And I thought about the bankruptcy consultation papers, about the possibility of losing everything we had built together. That's when I made the decision that would change both our lives forever. Marcus walked through the front door at 6:15 p.m., just like he did every Tuesday. I could hear him dropping his keys in the bowl by the door, loosening his tie, going through the familiar motions of coming home. But today, nothing was familiar. I had spent the afternoon organizing all the financial documents I had found, creating a neat stack on the kitchen table. The printed bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents, and that bankruptcy consultation folder sat there like evidence in a trial. In some ways, that's exactly what they were. "Sarah!" Marcus called from the living room. "Did you ever get those groceries? I'm starving." "We need to talk," I said, my voice carrying from the kitchen. "Can you come in here, please?" He appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. He looked tired, which made sense now that I understood the weight he had been carrying. But that didn't excuse the cruelty of his words earlier. "What's all this?" he asked, gesturing to the papers on the table. "Sit down, Marcus." Something in my tone must have warned him. He sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we had shared thousands of meals, where we had planned our future, where we had celebrated promotions and birthdays and anniversaries. "I want to know," I said quietly, "if you really believe what you said to me at the grocery store today." He had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Sarah, I was frustrated. The cards were declined. People were staring. Do you really believe that I don't contribute to this household? That's not what I said. You said I don't even pay the bills. You call my salary a joke. You said I had no idea how money works in this house." Each word came out measured and calm, but I could feel the anger beneath them. 15 years of suppressed frustration finally finding voice. Marcus shifted in his chair. "Look, I was embarrassed. I shouldn't have said those things in public." "But did you mean them?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Sarah, you have to understand the pressure I'm under. I handle all the finances, all the big decisions. Sometimes it feels like I'm carrying everything alone." I reached across the table and pulled the stack of documents toward me. "Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the bills you pay and the money you handle." His face went pale as he recognized the Chase Bank letterhead on the top document. "You went through my computer?" "I went through our financial records," I corrected. "Records that I should have had access to all along." I opened the first folder. Credit card number 1, $23,000 balance. Credit card number 2, $18,000 balance. Personal loan, $35,000. Car loan, $47,000. Should I continue? Marcus's hands clenched on the table. "Sarah, I can explain." Our mortgage, which should have been nearly paid off, now has a balance of $280,000 because you've refinanced twice without telling me. I pulled out another sheet. Monthly minimum payments, totaling over $4,000. That's more than my entire monthly salary. It's not that simple. It is that simple, Marcus. You've been using credit to pay for our lifestyle while my salary, my joke of a salary, has been the only actual income keeping us afloat. I spread out the bank statements. Every penny I earn goes into this joint account and immediately gets used to service debt. He was staring at the papers now, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. I never wanted you to worry about this. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You were planning to file for bankruptcy without telling me. Were you going to protect me from that too? His silence was answer enough. Do you know what I did today after you humiliated me in front of a store full of strangers? I pulled out one more document, the statement from my personal savings account. I went to the bank and looked at this. Marcus's eyes widened as he saw the balance. $127,000? Sarah, where did this money come from? From my joke of a salary. From 15 years of saving small amounts, being careful, planning for the future. Money that you didn't even know existed because you were so busy dismissing my contributions. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. Marcus stared at the number on the page, and I watched as the implications sank in. You've had this money all along, he whispered. I've had this money because I was careful. Because I didn't spend every penny we earned. Because I thought about the future even when you were living only in the present. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw him really see me. Not as a teacher wife who handled small things while he managed the important stuff, but as an equal partner who had been quietly holding our family together. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about what I said today. I was wrong. You were wrong about more than just today, Marcus. You were wrong about me, about my value, about what I contribute to this family. I stood up and walked to the window that looked out over our backyard. The garden I had planted and maintained for 15 years was in full bloom, a testament to patience and consistent care. I've been thinking about this all afternoon, I said without turning around. About what to do with this information, about what to do about us. What do you mean? I turned back to face him. I mean, we're at a crossroads. We can either be honest with each other and work together to fix this, or we can continue living the lie that nearly destroyed us today. Marcus leaned back in his chair, looking older than his 45 years. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that we start over. Financially and personally. I'm proposing that you acknowledge what I bring to this marriage, and I'm proposing that we use my savings to clear our debts and build something real together. You do that? After everything. I do that because I love you, Marcus. But I won't do it if you're going to continue treating me like I'm less than an equal partner. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the papers spread across our kitchen table. Finally, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. I don't deserve you, he said quietly. No, you don't. But deserving isn't the point. The point is what we do from here. I sat back down across from him. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, we're going to the bank together. We're going to pay off every single debt we have. We're going to start fresh. But we're going to do it as equal partners with complete financial transparency. And if I can't do that, I met his eyes steadily, then we'll use the money to pay off the debts, and you can figure out the rest on your own. The weight of that statement hung between us in the kitchen air. Outside, the sun was setting over suburban Atlanta, casting long shadows across our neighborhood. Inside, we sat in the aftermath of 15 years of financial deception and emotional dismissal. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Not as the lesser partner in an unequal marriage, but as a woman who knew her worth and was willing to fight for it. 3 weeks later, I sat in the same Kroger where everything had started, but this time I was alone. My cart was full of groceries, the good steaks Marcus had wanted, fresh vegetables from the organic section, and a bottle of wine to celebrate. The total came to $156.78, and when I swiped my card, it was approved instantly. Have a great day, Mrs. Mitchell, the cashier said with a smile. You too, I replied, meaning it. The transformation had been remarkable and exhausting. That night after our kitchen table confrontation, Marcus and I had stayed up until 3 a.m. going through every aspect of our finances. He had cried twice, once when he realized the depth of the debt he had hidden, and once when he truly understood how his words had wounded me. The next morning, we had driven to the bank together. Patricia Williams had looked surprised to see us both, but she had handled everything with professional discretion. We had paid off every single debt, the credit cards, the personal loan, the car loan. We had made a large payment toward the mortgage, bringing the balance down to a manageable $95,000. You understand, Patricia had said as we signed the final papers, that this is essentially a fresh start. You're debt-free except for your mortgage, and you still have about $25,000 left in savings. Marcus had nodded, his hand finding mine across the table. We understand, and we're going to do things differently from now on. The changes had been immediate and profound. We had closed all but one credit card, which we agreed to use only for emergencies. Marcus had given me access to every account, every password, every financial document. We had started meeting every Sunday evening to review our expenses and plan for the upcoming week. But the most significant change had been in how we talked to each other. Marcus had started asking for my opinion on financial decisions, acknowledging my contributions, treating me as an equal partner in our marriage. It was like meeting my husband for the first time in years. I wasn't naive enough to think that one conversation could undo 15 years of problematic dynamics, but the foundation had shifted. We had started seeing a marriage counselor, Dr. Jennifer Chun, who helped us navigate the deeper issues that had led to our financial and emotional crisis. Financial infidelity, she had called it during our second session. It's more common than people think, and it's just as damaging as other forms of betrayal. Marcus had been working on understanding why he had felt the need to control all the financial information, why he had dismissed my contributions, why he had preferred to struggle alone rather than ask for help. I had been working on understanding why I had allowed myself to be diminished, why I had kept secrets of my own, why I had been willing to accept less than I deserved. Now, as I loaded groceries into my car in the Kroger parking lot, I thought about how different everything felt. The Georgia summer was still oppressive, but I no longer felt oppressed. I had found my voice, my worth, my power within our marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How did the grocery shopping go? Did you get everything we need for dinner? I smiled as I typed back. Got everything, including the good steaks. See you at home. His response came immediately. Thank you for taking care of that. I love you. Such a simple exchange, but it represented everything that had changed. Gratitude instead of dismissal. Appreciation instead of criticism. Partnership instead of hierarchy. When I got home, Marcus was in the kitchen, having changed out of his work clothes into jeans and a t-shirt. He helped me carry in the groceries, and we put them away together, talking about our days. I got the promotion, he said as we unpacked vegetables. Regional manager. It comes with a $15,000 salary increase. Marcus, that's wonderful. I hugged him, genuinely happy for his success. I already know what I want to do with the extra money, he said. I want to start a college fund for the kids we might have someday. And I want to take you on a real vacation, one we can actually afford. I laughed. Kids! We haven't talked about that in years. I know. I think I was too scared before. Scared of the financial responsibility, scared of failing. But now, with everything out in the open, with us working together, he trailed off, looking suddenly vulnerable. Now it feels possible, I finished for him. Yeah, it feels possible. We made dinner together that night, the good steaks, grilled to perfection, with roasted vegetables and a glass of wine. We talked about our session with Dr. Chun, about the debt-free future we were building, about the dreams we had put on hold. I keep thinking about that day in the grocery store, Marcus said as we cleared the dishes. About how cruel I was to you. About how you could have left me after finding out about all the debt. I thought about it, I admitted. There were moments when I wondered if our marriage was worth saving. What made you decide to stay? I considered the question carefully. I realized that our marriage was worth saving, but only if it could become something different. Something better. I wasn't willing to stay in the old version of our relationship, but I was willing to fight for a new one. He nodded. I'm grateful every day that you were willing to fight for us. Later that evening, I sat in our home office, Now truly our office, with space for both of us, paying bills online while Marcus worked on his laptop beside me. The transparent financial management that had once seemed so foreign now felt natural. The water bill is higher than usual, I mentioned, looking at the statement. I noticed that too. I think we might have a leak in the backyard. I'll call a plumber tomorrow. Such an ordinary conversation, but it represented everything we had built. Shared responsibility, open communication, mutual respect. As I updated our shared spreadsheet with the monthly expenses, I thought about the teacher's salary that had once been dismissed as a joke. That salary, combined with Marcus's income and our careful budgeting, was now building a solid foundation for our future. We were saving again, planning again, dreaming again. My phone chimed with an email from Patricia at the bank. Our quarterly financial review was coming up, and she wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss investment options for our growing savings. Look at this, I said, showing Marcus the email. We're actually in a position to start investing again. He grinned. From nearly bankrupt to building wealth in 3 weeks. That's got to be some kind of record. It's not about the speed, I said. It's about the partnership. We did this together. That night, as we got ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I looked the same as I had a month ago, but something fundamental had changed. I stood straighter, smiled more easily, met my own eyes with confidence. I had always been strong enough to save money for 15 years, strong enough to maintain a career I loved, strong enough to keep our family functioning even when I didn't know how precarious our finances were. But now I felt powerful in a way I never had before. Sarah, Marcus said, appearing in the doorway. I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for making you feel small. I'm sorry for dismissing your contributions. I'm sorry for not seeing your worth. I turned to face him. I forgive you, Marcus. But more importantly, I forgive myself for accepting less than I deserved. He crossed the room and took my hands. We're going to be okay, aren't we? I squeezed his hands and smiled. We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be partners. As we settled into bed that night, I thought about the woman who had stood in the grocery store checkout line just a few weeks ago, humiliated and dismissed. She had no idea that her moment of greatest shame would become the catalyst for her greatest strength. The secret savings account was nearly empty now, but what we had built with that money was worth so much more than the dollars we had spent. We had bought ourselves a future, a partnership, a marriage based on truth and respect. And tomorrow, we would continue building it together, one honest conversation at a time. Outside our bedroom window, the Georgia summer night was warm and still. Inside, 2 people who had nearly lost everything were learning how to be married all over again. It wasn't the fairy tale ending that movies promised, but it was something better. It was real, hard won, and completely ours. The grocery store incident had ended our old marriage, but it had also begun our new one. And this time, we were both paying the bills.